Okay, so we are here today with Mary Jo Gentert. Am I saying your last name? I think I said
Gentert.
Gentert. Okay,
Right.
I was
That's all right.
with the
That's all right.
soft. So Gentert, I said it right the first time with the in the video, but that we did of the Alpine Essence Farms. But she is here today to show us some healing techniques and breathing techniques that we can do on ourselves in our home, and we can get in habit of doing those that will help maintain our health and well-being. So want to welcome Mary Jo and thank you so much for coming on again and meeting with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, when I looked at that article that you had in the talked about that you were super excited about two different types of uh, um, I don't know if it's procedures or something, breathing and some other things that would help us get the electrical system in our bodies moving better and and healing the nervous system. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. For 17 years, I've had a practice where I help people heal their electrical system. And so the body heals absolutely everything and anything with the movement of that electrical system. So we're made up of nothing but a bunch of rivers. And those rivers are electrical flows and they need to be roaring. The faster the river flows, the cleaner it is. We're the same way. So if our electrical system on any particular flow gets stagnant, then that's when we develop symptoms, illness, sickness, and disease. And so I find the stagnation, and then I remove that stagnation using muscle testing and then Shin, which is a form of acupuncture. And so that's what we'll be talking about tonight. And the main electrical flow is in your spine. And it's called, the energy in there is called Ki, Kieki. And it is the source. So it is your strongest energy flow. And it is always going up the back of the spine, over the head, and down the front. And then it constantly does an oval. And it's always moving as fast as it can healthfully, and then from the spine it sends off all these what looks like tributaries or smaller energy flows that have a slightly more dense frequency, and that goes throughout the entire body. And so I have uh, a meditation, a breath and healing meditation that I do that works just with the key on the front of the spine. And then if you do it for 20 minutes or an hour, it doesn't matter. The longer you do it, the deeper the cleaning, the deeper the healing, and the more faster you will make that current go. The I do it daily. I do it every morning, shortly after I wake up, and it will cover every piece of your body, every organ, every gland, every depth of your body. And so if you do it quickly for just a few minutes on each point, you will get an entire body circulatory flow going. Obviously the longer you do it, you're going to get a deeper circulation. So maybe you might do a certain particular point longer. So if you had gallbladder issues, you might want to stay on that point for longer. But otherwise, you'll feel the energy, and then once you feel it, you can move on to the next point and know that particular dam on the river is open and healing itself. Once we help the body find stagnation and then remove that stagnation with your fingers, the body does all the healing. It does all the healing with the movement of that electrical system. So once we get out of its way, then you might say it does all the work for us. And so that's kind of
Now,
what we talk about tonight.
so you mentioned at another meeting that we had that did you do something similar to heal your daughter of some issue? And is this what you used?
Yes. So she fell rock climbing uh, about 3.5 years ago, and she dislocated both ankles. And so when we saw her in the emergency room, her toes on her right ankle were almost completely backwards, facing the ground. And then her left foot was about 50% of the way, facing the wrong way. They were dislocated, and they told us that it would be no problem. They would relocate it and that would be better, and she would heal completely. Well, they could not get it relocated, either one. And so they sent us down to Denver in the middle of that night by ambulance, and UC Health could not get her relocated either. And so they called in a trauma team and they ended up taking her into surgery. And when she came out, her right her right leg from the ankle to the knee had what's called an external fixator on her. And it was these what looked like metal pencils sticking out of her all over the place. And they told us that was her glue that was holding her together, that she had not only dislocated her ankles, but she had torn everything from her ankle to her elbow.
Oh,
And there was nothing to hold her in place. And the bad news was they told us we don't know what we can give her back as far as mobility. And they said neither ankle is going to see the ground for a year. And I asked if I could start working on her in the hospital, and I worked on her every day since then for 97 days in a row. And we had her walking by the end of those 97 days. I had a very similar story a year ago. And this last September, I had a young girl that was in a horse riding accident, and she had fallen off of a horse and had, I think it was 3 surgeries below her knee on her right leg, and none of the surgeries took. And so the doctors were telling her that it was going to, they were headed down the path that it would need to be amputated eventually if they couldn't get that circulatory system going. The circulatory system is required in order for the bone healing to develop. And so she called me, I think it was the week before Halloween, and they canceled the amputation. And uh, they said they had never seen anything so fast. Her bone growth had happened, I think, had grown 60% in that 6 weeks. So 5 or 6 weeks. So the body will do absolutely healing of anything and everything, but it needs the circulation of that electrical system to do so.
so can you show us a little about how
Sure.
this works, these sequences work?
Sure. So the main central, the main flow that I use every day that goes through every organ, every gland, your brain, uh, that one is strictly a flow with the key energy in your spine. And so if I make sure that that is completely healthy and strong and flowing hard, then that services all other flows in the body. So the only time that I personally will go and work on, let's say, the liver or the gallbladder, is if I know there's something wrong. So in the mornings, it starts off with just your hand. I put your right hand on your tailbone, and then your left hand goes on the very top of your pubic bone. And that sandwiches your root chakra. And so the body has 6 depths to it, or 6 layers to it, and each layer has a specific frequency. And so that frequency, believe it or not, is the same frequency as one of the spectrum of light from the sun. And so each one is the same frequency and takes in the sun spectrum to keep that healthy and strong. And so we actually need sunlight every single day. We take it in through the pineal, and that regulates all of those depths. So these points go through each one. So this bottom one, when you're on both the top of your pubic bone and your tailbone, that one is the color red. And so while you're holding it, I am laying there with your eyes closed, and I do 5 deep breaths, as much as you can inhale through the nose. And as the very top of your breath, you're going to do kind of a little breath hiccup. So you're going to keep going to expand those the
Okay.
both lung lobes. And so then you do 5 inhales through your nose and exhale through your mouth, visualizing the red that you're holding on to. So you're going to make that red stronger and brighter. That removes all stagnation and starts the healing. So then when you're doing that, you will feel eventually what feels like a heartbeat in both your hands and primarily in your index, middle, and ring fingers. Those have particular nerves that are going to pick that up faster. And so that is the pulse of your energy. And what you are aiming for is that the pulse in both hands, in the fingers of both hands, are going to be the same. So when you feel that, what feels like a heartbeat in both hands at the same time, when they finally sync up, then you know those dams and that river between the two are flowing and there's no stagnation. And so that's usually shortly after the 5 breaths. And then after you get those 5 breaths, you're going to take your right hand and you're going to put it at the top of your head in the part of your hair. And that's going to stay there for the duration of the flow. And then after that, you're going to move your left hand up to the next. It coincides with the chakras and it's the belly button. And so you're going to do the same thing. You're going to repeat those 5 breaths. And this time you're going to envision the color orange. And so at this time, you are on a different depth, a different vibration, coincides with the orange from the rainbow of the sun. And you're going to be working on all your prostate, bladder, um, all of your sexual organs, your leg and spine circulatory system, your strength of your leg is there, your adrenal health is there. If it is balanced, you will feel strong legs, you will feel a purpose, you will feel purposeful, grounded, solid. And so you're going to do the same thing. 5 breaths. You're going to envision orange in that one. With your inhale, the orange gets brighter. And with your exhale, you're blowing out through your mouth the toxicity. For every disease and illness and sickness, it lies in a lipid, and it lies in a toxic lipid, a toxic fat. And so whenever the body gets rid of any of that, it converts over 72% of every lipid into carbon dioxide, and we breathe it out. So we breathe out, if you were to lose 5 pounds, it's going to take 72% of that and convert it into carbon dioxide. And we lose it through the lungs, through the breath. So this is where you want to expand the lungs to clean them out, clean out the sludge on the bottom. So these 5 breaths need to be as deep as you can possibly get them. You inhale as much as you can possibly get. And over time, this gets larger and larger. It's believed that the quality of health depends on the lung capacity. And so, and you'll know when you start getting that lung capacity larger and larger, when you're out doing any physical activity, that's where it shows up. It's like, wow, I couldn't do that before. And all of a sudden it just like a light switch is there. And that's that lung capacity. It holds great, great energy. So the breath becomes extremely important. From the belly button also does a little bit of blood pressure. And so if someone's dealing with either low or high blood pressure, that's a good one to linger on. From there, you're going to still keep that hand on the top of the head in the part. Then you're going to move your left hand now up just a couple inches below the sternum. So this is the color yellow. And you're going to, when you start your 5 breaths, you're going to envision yellow. And this is the stomach, spleen, gallbladder, liver, kidneys. This is small intestine, digestive system. And if any problem you have with any of those, then you would linger here a little longer, or you can just single it out. So say I have gallstones, then this would be the one that I would do extra. So maybe I would do it for 10 minutes during the day. You can isolate any one of these and make it an isolated hold. It doesn't have to be an entire flow. Of course, you want it to be a strong flowing flow that addresses everything. But if during any time of your life that you have a gallstone or any kind of liver issue, then you can make any point you want, a single hold to do like a liver or gallbladder cleanse. There's been times that I've done this one and I've left it for so long that I've made myself nauseous. And even my clients that I'll work on them, and if I linger there too long, they'll tell me, I don't feel so good, and they'll be kind of clammy. And so this one is a very good, this particular spot is a very good one for any allergies also. Most of your allergies are from the digestive system, particularly the liver. And so that's an extremely good hold for any kind of allergies, whether it's food or weather allergies. If that one is healthy, you have, if that intersection is healthy, you have a good overall drive about you. You aren't uh, not lazy wouldn't be the right word, but you aren't you don't have any lethargy about you. You have a great physical drive and mental and a great focus. You know where you want to go and how you're going to get there. That one's
Now,
very, yeah.
yeah, I had a question. No, you were saying at the on the tailbone, and you were talking about feeling the heartbeats or whatever. Do we do that on every single one of these? Are we looking
Yes.
for that one where it's like they sync up and then we know that it's been cleared? So the
Right.
heartbeats in our fingertips. Okay.
Yeah. And it's actually it's the pulse of the energy, but it feels very similar to the heartbeat. They'll do all kinds of things. So when you first put your fingers on them, they're not going to be synced up. They're going to be erratic. And one might be a loud boom, and the other one might be just a hum. And so when it's just kind of a humming buzz, that's more the nervous system is out of balance. So you have to wait until the energy goes to those places and becomes synced up, the 2 points that you're holding. Anytime you hold anything on your body, you will feel the energy through those points. The energy will be almost identical to a heartbeat, but it'll be about a half a beat behind the heart. Eventually, when your fingers get very in tuned with it and your energy gets stronger, you'll feel both in your fingers, and you'll feel the energy is slightly not weaker, but maybe softer than your heartbeat. And you'll feel both of them. The energy will just be just a tiny bit behind your heartbeat. But you will feel them no matter, you could hold your finger, any finger. Each finger is coordinates with a depth. And so your thumb is the stomach and spleen. And you just hold your thumb. I have clients that do this for sleeping if they have issues falling to sleep. They'll go to bed holding their thumb or even both thumbs at the same time. And you'll feel the pulse in both thumbs. The longer you hold it, the stronger that pulse gets. If you wouldn't feel a pulse, it would indicate that you have stagnation somewhere. The stagnation on a flow looks like a river, and the points along that flow act like dams on a river. And so it would indicate that there's a dam that's closed and needs to be opened. And so you would reopen it by holding it longer or more often.
So,
Okay,
Mary,
great.
would you do this? You'll touch these chakras for your patients, or you would still do on your own body?
Both. I do it on my own body every day. And then I teach it to my patients and also do it to them. I do a little more extensive one on all my clients and patients. We're going to teach this every Saturday morning in January, a full 90-minute class to teach it in depth in Loveland, starting in the first Saturday in January. But it is a phenomenal flow to do to yourself. If the stronger you get your energy, the more cleaned up you get your energy, so that its flow is flowing like a hard, fast moving flow river in Yellowstone Park. That means that you're going to be cleaner and stronger and more healthy in order for your body to fight off anything that you come across. If you think of a river that's stagnant and it's just a little trickling creek, what do we see in that creek? We see trash along the sides of the river. We see icky stuff growing in it. We're the exact same way. So if some river of electricity is stagnant in us, maybe someone comes to me and they tell me my hand feels tingly in the fingers, or I have some kind of neuropathy. that tells me that we have a flow that's not flowing very well. And so then for them, I would have to go find where that flow is. And I use a combination of looking, feeling for those points that aren't working. And for them, I use a little bit of muscle testing also to locate it faster for a body mapping. But I always teach all of them to use this particular flow. That is the main, it's referred to as the breath of God. And so we're all born with it. And we're given the choice to whether we want to utilize it or not. That key energy services the entire body. And so every flow that comes off of that key is dependent on the flow of that. And every chakra is an intersection. And it's also a sphere, and it's shaped like a cone, and it's spinning. And so what you're doing is making sure that each of those energy houses are clean and operating like they should. You can kind of think of it like an electrical, the city's electrical system, where when all the power lines go into that particular town's electrical company, and then all the lines leave from there. This is what we have: an electrical company. We have 7 of them, and each one determine a different depth of the body, a different set of organs, a different set of chemicals and hormones, all come from each one of these.
So we've started out, so we have red and then orange and then yellow, right? And so what's the next one that
So the next one would be the one right on the breastbone, and it's green, and that's your heart chakra. And so that one is the heart, all circulatory issues in the body. It's also the lower lungs. It's the immune system. It is your repair and regenerate electrical warehouse engine. It's responsible for all of your upper back, and it is where you will feel love, you will feel compassion. If it's out of balance, you might feel fear, anger. You won't get a pulsation if it's out of balance, or you might get an erratic one. You won't get one that feels like the heartbeat. So if it's in balance, you're going to feel so much compassion for everyone that you always want what's best for the greater good. And you can tell if these are out of sync, because if they're out of balance, you will have, like this particular one, you would have anger or moodiness. You would have feelings of disgust or even hatred too often or too frequent. And you would know that something's not right. And so then you would know that something in this area is not working quite right. And now we're generating feelings that we know we're not given naturally. And so then you would know that maybe you would want to spend more time on this particular point. So this one.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Right.
So cold weather's coming in, and I've noticed that since I have lost weight a few years ago, the cold affects me a lot more. I get cold in my fingertips, and so how do would this be the area that I would use for circulation to get
very good
things moving more?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I've even taught that if you will, when you're lying on your back, and to do this, if you will turn yourself around on the bed and put your legs up the wall or on the floor, and do it while you're doing that, it really speeds up circulation. And it'll, I don't remember the exact formula, but if you do it for something like 3 or 4 months, your cold feet will disappear, and you will heal that. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever liked the snow, but yeah.
No, I just noticed the cold as I get older, and the cold affects me more, and so I was like, how do I get that circulation going? Also, I know that that Daryl sometimes will lose. He will have lose feeling in his hands and his arms after sleeping. And I'm assuming that's a circulatory thing as well. And so is this the same area to work on then?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, absolutely. You will feel compassion and gratitude if that one is completely in balance. After you are here, you would move it to just that notch right below your neck, right below the thyroid. You would put your left hand there, and now the color is blue. And so this one is your metabolism. It also governs your calcium in your body. It governs your immune system. It does your chemicals and your anything in your throat, your mouth. It will also regulate any health in your arms. So it would do circulation in your arms also. This one is how we utilize the love that we had in the previous point. So once we move up, it shows us if this one becomes in balance, this will use the love that was generated to pour out. So this determines how we use love, how we show love in the world, what we do with it. So if you have love growing in you and getting stronger, you don't want to keep it in, you want to share it. And this is where this point would come in. Also, obviously, does the thyroid, does any mouth issue, if anyone has, what's that, like TMJ, this would be a good one for that one to restore all the energy through the mouth and clean that out, all the flows. If this is out of balance, you would find someone that is overly timid or overly quiet, overly bashful, then this would be the one I would work on. And this one is blue. So you're going to envision blue as you inhale. If that blue is going to keep getting stronger. And it actually does. The more you do it, sometimes in the beginning, you will have to envision the blue, the color of any of them. And then the more you do it, the color starts to overwhelm you. And you don't have to envision the color anymore. It's just there and it starts to overtake you. Sometimes that's how I tell if a point is not in balance. My color won't be vivid. It won't be overtaking me. I'll have to envision it and I have to see it instead of be it or feel it. And so then I'll know that that color is that chakra area is not in balance.
Okay. So, all right. So we're there at the throat. And so I'm assuming we go to the third eye then
We go
is
to
the
the
last one?
nose.
Oh, to the nose. Okay.
To the nose. And I usually just put my middle finger because it's those same three fingers, and I'll just put my middle finger there. And this one is for your pineal. And this one is all of your circadian rhythm. It is your, it regulates and governs your melatonin and serotonin. So this one provides sharp focus, mind focus, any kind of uh, uh, creativity is there. It revitalizes your creative side. The melatonin and serotonin is governed with the pineal. It has to receive sunlight, believe it or not. We have receptors in our eyes and our skin that need the full spectrum of the sun, and we take it in through the pineal, through the eyes. And so the more sunlight you take in during the day, the more serotonin you develop. So the pineal uses the amount of serotonin, determines the amount of melatonin. They both can't be high. Serotonin goes up and determines the amount of joy that you feel during the day, the
Yeah.
amount of life that you feel in your life. And so the higher the serotonin levels, the higher the melatonin levels. And so that is what determines your quality of sleep right there.
Ah, okay. So if I'm having issues with that, so then with sleeping, then maybe focus more on that area for a longer period of time
and get more sunshine.
and get more sunshine. That's kind of hard to do when it's cold outside.
I
It's like you sit there and
I know.
you're like, no, I don't want to go outside.
I agree.
So
I agree. It is hard this time of year.
So, I mean, you've talked before when I've talked to you about the benefits of getting out in the sunshine. In cold weather like this, how much sunshine do you think we should get outside to get?
Dr. Jack Cruz, he's a neurologist, and he says that it is vital that we see the sun rise. Uh, at that time, the angle of the sun between sunrise and approximately 10:30 a.m., the angle of it is just right with all the spectrum, the full spectrum, that we take it in and we start converting it. Your gut is actually formed, your gut bacteria is formed by first and foremost the sun. Then it's structured water, healthy, clean, structured water. And then it is the frequency of things out in nature. So it's important to be in nature, to touch nature. And that resets our gut, which then sculpts the brain. Fourth is food, but whole food. But sunshine, if you can get at least 30 minutes, specifically in the morning between sunrise and about 10:30, I will stare at the sun. I'll walk every morning at sunrise and stare right at it. It is absolutely magical. If you stare at it, you know how you'll get the blurry yellow that makes it so you can't hardly look at it. If you keep staring at it right after sunrise, the blurriness moves out and you see just the sun. It is absolutely miraculous. And the more you do it, the more your body craves it. And the your vision starts correcting itself. It is miraculous what the sun will do. It also has that same angle at sunset. It's just harder for me to get to it at sunset here because it's usually dinner time in Colorado when the
Yeah.
sun is setting right now. But it's easier for me to go out and find it in the sunrise. But if you can get 30 minutes, if you can't, you can still sit by the window and get a little bit, but it is pretty important that you at least try to get 20 to 30 minutes, even in the winter.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, that is known as sun gazing, where you stare at the
Right.
sun, right? And you only do that within that 2 hour window between
Correct.
sunrise and and then
About
sunrise into
10,
about
yeah.
10 o'clock, and then in the evening and the sunset time period. So
Right.
you don't go out there and stare at the sun at noon.
No, 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 no.
So, um, but that kind of because it is just over the horizon of the earth, and the earth's atmosphere and that type of stuff diffuse what could be the damaging rays to your eyes, and actually
Right.
you get that spectrum of light that is so good for your
Right.
skin and your eyes. So yeah, so that's why they hold have that early risers, or
Yes, exactly.
challenging for me. I tend to be a night bird, but that's okay.
It's kind of cool. I've heard some doctors say that there was a Japanese doctor, and I don't remember his name. He had cancer, and he was going up on his rooftop early in the mornings to find a quiet place for meditation. And he noticed every single day that the birds started to chirp exactly 47 minutes before the sun would rise. And so this set off some he was just curious and set off some testing. And so he put a group together, and one thing led to another. He found out that exactly, and I don't know if this was just Japan, but 47 minutes where he was, the birds would start chirping because they found out the electrons start vibrating in everything growing outside, anticipating the sun coming up. So
Huh.
when the sun finally reaches up, the electrons split. And when they do this, they off gas oxygen. And so the birds were very excited and they take up the oxygen as we do. And so sunrise is very important to every living being.
Okay, so great. So and then so we have the nose, and what's that, and the next one on the
So the next one is your pituitary, and that is the spot in between your eyebrows and just a finger above. So just slightly above it. And that one is your pituitary. And that one is governs all harmony in your body. So this one actually regulates the entire flow. So if you have cleared all the other points all the way up, then this one the energy in the front side of the body is always moving down. So this one, as it governs everything going down, as the pituitary governs spine health, governs the blood pressure, the pressure of the frequency of the energy, as it governs that, it has no obstacle below it because you have already cleared them all. So there's no dam on this particular river that's closed because you've done it actually in reverse and you've started at the bottom. And as that flow is going down, because on the back side, it's moving up over my head and down the front. And so it's constantly doing that oval. And so the more I do this flow, the faster that current will be. And so if I do it from the bottom up, by the time I get here, he's able to put everything down there and have absolutely no problem doing it because you've already opened all of the dams. It's kind of magic.
So you've been doing this now for how long?
Well, to be honest, I didn't do it every day in the beginning. So I've probably done it once I figured out that it was actually healing things. I've done it every day for probably 4 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of changes did you notice when you started doing this regularly?
Digestion issues started to heal. So then we no longer had issues eating certain things, wouldn't give us an upset stomach, or constipation disappeared. Things like we quit getting colds. We, to this day, my journey started in 1992 when our daughter, that same daughter that fell, had gotten real sick. And when they figured out what happened to her, they thought she was dying of cancer, and she was 7 at the time. And they figured out that at the time she had been left on a sinus infection medication too long by another doctor, and it started to destroy her immune system. And so when they released her from the hospital about a week later, they were teaching me how to change her IVs for her penicillin drip. And they said, we were leaving the hospital and they said, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you, she can't be on any prescription medication for 1 to 2 years. And she probably shouldn't be on any over-the-counter medication for a year. And I kind of freaked out and I said, she's 7. What do you want me? How do I do this? And they said that you'll have to learn some natural medicine. And that was in 1992. And I didn't know what that was. And so from 1992 to today, we have never been on any medication. And we have 2 kids and they have not either. And so I had to learn how to heal things. We got sick, of course, and I had to learn how to heal it using primarily herbs and tinctures and foods, even like crushing garlic and making the kids eat it. That started it. And then I picked up Shin and started working with the electrical system and the energy of the body. I think that was in 2000, 2004-ish. And so from then on, I started using more energy for healing and for strengthening. And then I started finding out that our immune systems were getting stronger and stronger. We'd go a whole winter without getting sick. And so now, as of now, the kids rarely ever get sick. And Russ and I have not had even a sniffle for 8 years. And now that I say that, but I'll better knock on wood. And I know it's from the flows. And he doesn't do it to himself, as I have to admit, he's not as good at doing it to himself. He will make me do it. He'll get on the massage table and say, will you clear me out? And so we do it. I do it every day. He does it. He probably gets it 3 days a week, to be honest. But he's more of a fix me if something's not working.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. So that's unusual, especially back then in the 90s, for them to say, hey, you need to stay off of medication and go try herbs.
Right. It was.
So
it was.
Wow, that is really unusual.
It was. I didn't realize it at the time. At the time, I was shocked myself and panicking. I was like, what do you want me to do? And how do I do this? And all they gave me was the name of a nurse. And it was an older lady in Loveland. And she kind of started me on the journey by just giving me books. and then would call me periodically and ask how is everything going. But it started with her and then books, and I just started devouring them. I didn't have a choice at the time. And then I became extremely interested in it, and then I couldn't stop. And so then it just started to where I would play with it and say, hey, let's try this. Let's see what happens. And I remember specifically, Caitlin came home from college, and she had H1N1 flu. The college had swabbed her and sent her home. And sure enough, she gave it to all of us. And I had us all back up in 3 days. And just by doing tinctures and herbs and garlic and whatnot. But that kind of started the journey. And then I wanted more. And so then I found a teacher at Front Range Community College in Loveland. And she told me that I was taking a massage therapy class there. And she said, you need to look into energy. I think you'll like it. And I fell in love with it. And just in the, I've added to that all sorts of energy modalities to devour as much as I could when I started seeing success, like with similar to the lady that didn't have to have her leg amputated. When you start seeing things like some of my very first clients were, I remember a married couple, and they were older. They were I don't remember. When she first came to me, it was somewhere around 70, I guess. And she had been one of the ones in Longmont, Colorado with listeria, the big cannula.
Wow.
And she was
Yeah.
in a
Okay.
coma. And I got called to see if I could bring her out of the coma. And we did. It took 2 sessions. We got her out of the coma. And then the doctors told her that her lungs were damaged and her health wasn't the greatest before that. But they said, I don't think that you have maybe 24 months left on your lungs. And so she lived 14 more years, and I worked on her every single week. And I learned the most from her. I think she was my first major client with something majorly wrong. And her lungs, when she died of dehydration. And I could not get her to drink water. She hated water, and I couldn't get
Oh
her
no.
to move for circulation. And but when she passed away, her lungs were stronger than they were when I first started working on her 14 years before that. It gave her a very good quality. The last 14 years were better than the 14 before that. And so when you start seeing that kind of thing from just strengthening their circulatory, their biomagnetic electrical circulation, then you become obsessed with knowing the gifts that we were given in the body and how to utilize them. We were given those gifts for a reason. Even it's now being researched and made public that Mary Magdalene practiced the very same thing, and
Oh
she
wow.
became the disciple. There's ancient scripts that have been found, even in the Dead Sea Scrolls, that talk about it. And her manuscript was released. There are pieces missing, lots of pieces missing, but her manuscript was released a few years ago, and it is fantastic to read all about the very same thing.
So there is a manuscript. Do you know what it's called and where it's published or?
Yeah, the two that I have right now is I think it's called The Healing Power of Mary Magdalene. That's my favorite one that I'm reading right now. Uh, the original one I think is just called Mary Magdalene, maybe. Um, I'm not sure of that one. I don't remember
Okay.
the full name of that one. I can get it though.
Okay, no, that's fine. I think we can look it up. So it's like I didn't know that there were any writings per se
Yeah,
done by Mary Magdalene. You know, I know there were ones done about her, but
yeah,
not by her. So, okay, just to so to recap, so we have so the basic chakras that you go through is the area along the tailbone and the pubic bone, which is red, right?
correct.
Okay, and then and then you put your hand on the top of your head and then your left hand on your belly button for the next one, and that one's orange, correct?
Orange, correct,
Okay, then you keep your hand up there and you do yellow, and that one is just below the sternum, correct?
correct.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then you do heart, which is green.
Green. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember green.
I know. I always want
And
that
then
one to be red.
I know you do. It's like, okay, so and then so your heart, which is envisioning green, and then your throat, which is blue,
Blue,
and then your nose, not sure
which
on, we're not sure on
which
the
is a deeper shade of
Indigo.
blue. It's more of an indigo blue.
indigo blue. Okay.
And then
And
your
then
last, then your last one is purple.
is purple. Okay. All right. And so you're envisioning those and then holding and doing those deep breaths for, the 5
Right.
deepest breaths that you can take. And so,
Right.
and you can do them longer on any place that you're thinking you're having issues. I'm just kind of
Yes.
recapping here. So,
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. That's
because I
great.
want to do this.
It's great. It really is. You will feel the one thing that everyone says they feel quickly is an overall sense of peace and calm. Your nervous system starts to balance and you start to become metabolically flexible. Instead of right now, most of us have a sympathetic system that is overactive and it makes your parasympathetic kind of dormant. And so that is our lifestyle, what we're eating, what we're exposed to, the toxicities. And so by doing this, you bring that down and you start making it more balanced and metabolically flexible, which is what you aim for.
Okay. Now, did you have, I know we only have a few minutes here, but I think you were talking about 2 different sequences, and that was one sequence of things. Did you have another sequence?
It is. I have one for all things for what you eat during the day. And it rebalances the sugars in your body. It helps with any kind of sluggish digestiveness, and it is the spleen flow. And so that one, you would put your right hand on your tailbone, and then your left hand would go on your left ankle, right below the bone. And so
Okay.
that can be a hold by itself to cleanse out the spleen and the revitalize circulation in the legs. It's great for restoring energy in the legs. And then you're just going to move it on up. So you're going to keep your right hand on the tailbone and your left hand will move to the knee. And then it's going to sit there for, I usually use 5 breaths. And then it's going to move to the top of the pubic bone and then right up to the right rib cage. And so you're kind of doing a line all the way up and you're crossing over to your right rib cage. And then your left hand goes over back on that breastbone. And then it comes over and lands on your collarbone. And so I think that one is on the website, a free download that you can download. And that one, I utilize that a lot. I probably utilize on myself. I do that probably a couple times a week. It cleans out any kind of debris that the blood sugars may have that linger. Like the spleen would be responsible for making sure that blood sugars are cleaned out in time. And it's very good at that.
So anyone could go to alpineessencefarm.com
Yes.
and then where would they find
There's a
that?
page that says reawaken, and on that reawaken page I have several. I think there's six or eight downloads, and all of them are different flows that they can do. And then we will be teaching that along with the main central on those Saturdays at the Grace Yoga in Loveland, Colorado. It's going to be filmed. I think that is going to be done in February, and then we'll add that to the website also.
Okay, great. So then you guys can go through and they can learn how to do these
Right,
different flows and sequences.
right.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, does anyone else have any questions for Mary Jo on what you might, on these sequences and how to do them, or any other questions?
So really, Mary Jo, you're combining color therapy with balancing the electrical flow, right?
Right.
And the color therapy enhances or is complements the electrical flow very well.
Yes, because every point that we discussed tonight is on a particular depth. It governs a depth of the body. There are 6 layers from the outside of our body to the very center of our bone. And so from the outside of my body, there's 6 depths that go to the center, and those same 6 are on the backside. And so every layer is a different color. It's the rainbow. And so the reason that it's the color is it's the same vibratory frequency as the color from the sun. And so that depth in us, or that layer of our body, so say it's the green, the frequency of that green is the same frequency from the green in the sun, from that particular piece of the sun. And so that's how it rebalances us. And so if you envision green when you're on that hold, and it's doing during your inhales, exhale also, but during your inhale, you are bringing that in and making that green stronger. And so eventually you don't have to envision those colors. They're there, whether you like it or not. They're there. The stronger and the healthier they get, they're automatically there. Where right now, when you're new to it, you kind of have to make your mind see green, and while you're doing the breath, and then pretty soon it's just going to start taking over for you. Did that answer?
Yeah, that's amazing, right? That's
Oh, good.
how it works.
Oh, good.
Now, I do know that there are different frequency systems, like with the Spooky 2 and other technologies that actually use the color spectrum that is there. So that makes a lot of sense that it would have a healing effect.
I have a chart here in the office that they now can measure the actual vibration frequency of every single organ. So every time a client comes here, that's the first thing I do. And so I use some muscle testing, and I measure their overall body frequency. And a healthy body will vibrate and give off a frequency of anywhere from 62 to 78 megahertz. And it's fantastic. So today I had a lady that she came with some liver trouble. Her liver is stagnant, and the doctors are telling her that she may need to go on medication here, and she's in her early 60s. And so we measured the frequency of her body. We measured the health percentage of her liver, and then we measured the toxic fats in her liver, and it was at 14% when she first came, which is not healthy. And so when she left 90 minutes later, her percentage of toxic fats in her liver was down to 5%, extremely healthy. And granted, for the next 24 hours, she's not going to feel so good. However, it will make her nauseous. But however, her frequency went to 87. And so 87 from hers when she first came was 64. And so that's how fast it will work. And so there's no limit to how good you can feel, and there's no limit to how high your vibration frequency will get. Pure love and joy is, there's no number they can put on it. We just every time they scientifically find a number, it just keeps getting higher and higher. They find someone to surpass it. There is a limit to how bad you can feel, obviously. They even know that cancer starts in a body at I think it's 55 megahertz or lower. So it can't happen in a body if that body is roaring and their frequency is 80 megahertz. They know that the death process starts at 25 megahertz. And so that's what you're feeling. That's the pulses you're feeling, is the frequency.
Wow. Okay. So for anyone else who wanted to check out, I'm going to, I'll give your website again, alpineessencefarm.com. And you can also go on there if you happen to be in the area, because you're in Berthoud, Colorado, correct?
Yeah.
And so if you are in that area and want to see if you want to schedule any appointments with Mary Jo, you can go on her website and get that set up there, or you can look at her like she said, the sequences and stuff that she has on there, and then keep coming back so that you can check out the new stuff that's coming in
Right.
January and February, right?
Exactly, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mary Jo. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate your
Yes,
time.
Absolutely. Thank you for
thank
having
you
me.
so much.